You're listening to Zoom the TBT with Charge and Hayner.
This is Zoom the TBT with Charge. Mike Andrew. I have a panel of esteemed guests to talk TBT as we get into the meat of the preseason. The TBT announces or starts in just a couple of days, about a week and a half or so. I have a wonderful panel to discuss the tournament at large. Let's start. We have stadium announcer and ESPN announcer Tim Scarborough. Tim, how you doing today?
I'm good, man. Always good to be on the show. And summer is not the same without TBT. So I'm glad TBT is back. And I'm looking forward to being in quite a few regions this year.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a minute, too. Looking forward to seeing you guys in person, as usual, in the summer. And his partner and good friend, Matt Martucci, the voice of the St. Joe's Hawks and ESPN announcer. Matt, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Anytime I'm going to the nail capital of the world in, less than 3 weeks, I've got to be excited. Wheeling, West Virginia, stand up.
Wheeling, West Virginia, stand up. If you thought Charleston was too big for you, we have a treat for you. Tom Ballato, founder and owner of The Next Prospect, the European basketball and overseas expert. Tom, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself? Always excited
Doing
for
fine.
TBT.
Oh, yeah, it's always great, always great. And actually, a lot of TBT players are playing in Summer League, and my flight leaves in about 5 hours. So we're going to date this, and I'm off to JFK. So let's just get started here. We're going to start with a quick round of buy and sell. Our first question, and we're going to go with Tim on this one. Buy or sell, a low, meaning 5 to 8 seed, will actually make the TBT semis and finals in Philadelphia. Tim, you're a Philly native. Are you buying or selling this?
I actually I have to sell that. When you think about last year and how the teams played out, the top seeds, I thought this was one of the better assessed seedings in a tournament, in any tournament. I mean, NCAA's all over the place. 16s beating ones, 15s beating twos. I felt like the top seeds in all of these regions, I think about last year, the West Virginia region where we all were. Best Virginia was 1, Buccaneers was 2. The blue collar U was number 2. Autism was number 2 in their championship game. There's not a lot of low seeds getting to Dayton, or in this case, Philadelphia. I'm going to say nobody less than a 3 seed is going to make it into the Final Four.
Okay, Matt, counterpoint there. Do you have a different take, or are you buying or selling a low 5-8 seed making Philly?
Believe it or not, I'll buy. And the reason is this, because I think the depth of this field has improved, I think, so much from year to year that you have some 5, 6, 7 seeds with plenty of veteran talent that have played in this tournament before. I look specifically into the region that Scar and I are covering down in West Virginia. And if you're looking for a specific team, I'll give you Ram Nation and the team that's put together by Matt Shelton-Ide. Haven't been in the tournament for a while. Have, for my money, one of the best rosters that I think they've put together. And I'm going to pick them to upset Sideline Cancer and potentially come out of that region and come to Philadelphia.
It's really funny Matt says that, too, because looking at these brackets, and I kind of agree with Matt about the idea of Ram being good, but there's 2 caveats. And I think Matt's got a great take for Ram Nation. I'm also a team I'm looking at a little bit would be like War Ready, actually, because I have very little faith in Bill as a host. Yeah, I have very little faith in Bill as the host. I think they're a little older, even though Russ was made for this event, obviously, Russ Smith. But what's interesting about that is, like, one thing about the rosters is who's going to show up, because I know Ram Nation's got a great roster and so does Sideline, but, like, Summer League starts. Like, are people going to get deals? Tom, going to you. Buy and sell. A low 5-8 seed will make Philly.
I'm going to buy. I think, like Matt said, some teams have some veteran talent, even some alumni teams. I think Men of Mackey might actually make a run this year.
That might be a tougher one for me to buy. Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty alumni. You got to get past Team Colorado, and then you got to get past Friday Beers, and then if you get that, you get your reward is to play the Red Scare in Dayton. That one I like the idea conceptually, Tom, but I might be selling that one specifically. But hey, it's a gutsy take, and honestly, I mean, it's fun because the gents at Red Scare are already kind of a little teed off at us for not giving them enough love already, so they're probably going to love that take by you about them getting out of Dayton.
But Andrew, here's the deal, though. You said Philadelphia, right? So that means there's only 4 teams going to Philadelphia.
That's
So
correct.
if you
That's
would've
fair.
said
That's fair.
quarterfinals, because remember
That's
last
fair.
year, the quarterfinal, the top 8 teams made it.
Yeah.
And, I think
Yeah,
about that
that's fair.
brotherly love team, which has been retooled now. They're, I believe, a 5th seed.
The Big Five.
Paris
No.
is
Yeah.
The
yeah,
Temple
and
alumni. The
Paris,
Temple
if
alumni.
you remember, the Temple alumni team is kind of that new Philadelphia brotherly love team. So that team got to Chicago at the time in 2019 and upset a few people. So it certainly can happen, but rarely do the low seeds get to the Final Four. I mean, now you're talking
That's
about
fair.
elite level TBT basketball. That's why I had to sell that.
That's actually fair. That's a fair point because the last couple of years it's been 8 regions feeding into a mega 8. That's a good point because now they're going to a 4-pack only. So that's a very, very, very good take. Let's move it ahead too. This is always a question with TBT is basically, and this is a buy or sell. We'll start with Tom this time to give him a little bit of tee up. So obviously this is a summer event. It's obviously a pro-am that ends up being played at high stakes. So teams are a bit familiar. So Tom, let's talk about this. Will youth and depth be more important than skill and experience in this TBT?
I think you look at it in the past. I would go along with depth because guys get hurt. Guys sit out a few games. A guy plays one game. They hope the team makes it through the second game and they're back to third. So I think depth plays an important role in TBT as it has in the past.
Okay, definitely. Matt, are you buying or selling that youth or depth will be more important than skill and experience in this TBT?
In this particular, well, I mean, just in any TBT, I'm always going with experience, just based on who's won this. You think about the run that Overseas Elite put together over the course of those 4 years. It was guys that had played together, that really loved being with one another, and built their own brand and built a reputation. Guys like DeAndre Kane, DJ Kennedy, and the like, Justin Burrell, guys that more or less built their bones on being stone cold killers in this tournament. And then, you go through like with Golden Eagles and what they built with Dwight Bikes, Boeheim's Army. Experience, I think, is the overriding factor. You can get by if you aren't necessarily as deep of a team, but if you don't have guys that have played in this thing and don't understand what an Elam ending scenario situation is like, then you're not getting out of this thing alive. So experience is always going to be the most overriding factor for me when it comes to this tournament.
Agreed. And that's why I'm not really buying the Kansas team, the Texas team, the Louisville team, although Peyton Siva and Russ Smith, that is
Russ was made for this event. Russ was
where were we?
Backward.
Where were we the year we were in Richmond, the year that I think Wake Forest debuted, and you and I were looking at the roster. We were like, oh, they got Justin Gray. Oh, they have Eric Williams. And then Justin Gray and Eric Williams showed up, and it was like, this isn't the same
They
guy.
the guys
like,
that we remember.
That's not the same guy. So, you can have a great squad on paper, but I'm saying, you can have a great squad on paper, but
they can come back in shape.
But if you haven't played in this thing before, more what I'm saying, if you haven't played in this, that was part of it too. Obviously, needed to stretch and run and do a few more calisthenics or something like that. But
you needed to have playing in the last 5 years to
Justin Gray wasn't the same for a lot of reasons. All right. Anyway,
let's just say that.
Fair enough.
But yes, you need dudes that have played in this thing before. That's what matters.
And Scar's raised a good point too. There's some really quality teams that don't have experience in this event. They got good play. So the Kansas one's a really interesting take because they have a squad of guys, but how many of those guys have been in this event? I mean, Tyshawn Taylor's played for I think 500 TBT teams, but other than that, most
Tyshawn
of them
have everywhere.
And how many wins does he? How many wins does he have? I don't know.
He's
that
a winner.
He's a
one and done.
Matt, he's a winner at life. Let's be clear. He's a winner at life.
But
I love Tyshawn Taylor. He's a Jersey City guy, St. Anthony's guy. Good player, very good player.
But to take the other way, name me a team that was young that made it anywhere near the finals. There has been one. And listen to this: if Amen and Azure Thompson couldn't go past the second round in this tournament, those two guys were drafted number 4 and number 5 in this year's draft. They had those guys on their team. a bunch of young, they're just tremendous players, and they couldn't get far in this tournament. So no, I mean, youth out. I'm out on youth. So as Tooch said, the experience is very important. Depth, you can get away with not having depth, and here's why: shorter games and Elam ending scenario. So you can play 8 guys if they're all good basketball players, which most of the good teams have 8 to 10 guys that are exceptional. So yeah, depth not as important. Experience is everything in TBT.
This is really, really hard to argue. I mean, yeah, the experience is definitely what depth matters, but experience is pretty much. And the shorter games, good point too. These are very intense games, but they're only 36 clock minutes, and that's depends on Elam too. Correct. So it can be some teams just Elam really, really, really fast. Okay, let's play haters round here. That's one of my favorites. I can put you guys on the spot. I'm going to make some people mad. This is pretty much our best segment every year. Buy and sell. A protected 1 or 2 seed will lose in the first round. Matt, you hate anybody? I think you already said you kind of were, actually.
I mean, Scar already said it. I'm going to go with the Kansas team. Simply because what have they done? And this isn't probably another one of our topic pieces, but so I'm getting ahead of myself here. But what reputation-wise, other than the name being the Kansas alumni on the back of the jersey, what warrants them being a number 1 seed? So I mean, I look at that region, where they're playing, obviously in Wichita. I'm not going to say that they're going to lose necessarily to that D3 team. But I mean, it could potentially be interesting. And then, you look down some of the other matchups. Actually, yeah, I don't buy the Kansas alumni necessarily. So that's I'm not going to say they're going to lose to. I'm not going to say they're going to lose to D3, but they could 100% get a legitimate scare. So maybe they don't lose. Maybe they don't lose in the first round, but they're out fairly quickly.
Now you said 1 or 2 seed though, so you already said you're picking Ramation. So you were buying this from the earlier answer because you got the 2 seed sideline going down to Ram. So you're buying this anyway. You're on the clock for buying this.
I should actually get my content in order. You're exactly right.
Yeah, I would keep sideline exactly.
Sideline cancer. I love sideline cancer.
Great squad.
Great squad, but not
Caught
the same
a bad
matchup
though.
Not the same sideline cancer squad that we're typically accustomed to seeing. No Mo Creek.
No Remy
Mike
Abel,
Dom
no
is Mike Dom actually going? Yeah, no Eric Thompson. That's a huge one. Is Mike Dom
you added Tyrese though? They got Tyrese Rice.
You added Reese Rice. But is Mike Dom going to show? Is Mike Dom going to show up
too?
Yeah,
Dominique Jones too. Correct.
I mean, look, Rice and Keene and Jones are great, but like, there's one ball. How many guys do you need that can score? Where all those guys who are passing the ball and kicking it.
How are you going to deal with that token VCU pressure too?
Exactly. Especially when your guards are all good but older. I mean, do you think that at this point Tyrese Rice wants to deal with the press? At this point, it's like, what the hell are we doing here? Like, I'm a professional. Let's quit this running shit. Tom, buy or sell.
Plus, by the way, before we even get into it, guess who's coaching? Oh, go ahead.
No,
finish, Matt. What do you got? We keep it loose.
I think we'll have some scares with some 1 and 2s, but I don't think a 1 and 2 is going to lose in the first round. No disrespect to D3, they're always a good team, but if all the guys come out for Mass Street had 3 guys that played professional, NBA, and top level overseas. I think that this could be a close game, or they could win.
It will be a close game. No, it's not. D3 is not getting wiped, but I definitely think they're going to win the first round against our boy Reg. We love Reg. We had him on a guest, and this will get released because we're releasing them all in a week as a batch of them. And we actually talked about Reg's chances, and we were not. And he's a friend of ours. We were not favorable though. Tim, let's go to you. Buy, sell. Because 1 or 2 seed will lose the first round.
I think the 1 seeds are pretty solid, but I will say this: Gutter Cats, watch out. Kyle Hines, this is not 2019. He's a little older now. They do have QJ Peterson, the really good guard out of VMI who can score at will, and he's done a great job in TBT in recent history. But that number 1 in Louisville, is vulnerable, and we talked about Louisville being vulnerable, but I don't expect that they would lose their first game. That Louisville alumni team again, Peyton Seaver, Russ Smith, Onawako. I mean, they if those guys show up, I suspect they'll be okay. But I think Gutter Cats could be vulnerable.
You and I saw it a year ago, though. That War Ready team finally came to play, and that's a good squad.
They truly were War Ready. Yeah.
And the sneaky pickup because they got Sean Willett from D2 this year, we saw in West Virginia, an undersized
jump out of the gym. One of my favorite players in this tournament.
Yeah, I think War Ready pulls it off. I think they crushed the gate. I think Louisville's going to go down, and I don't just say this because I absolutely hate Louisville as a Memphis fan. That might be part of it, but it's possible. So we're mostly selling this, but we have a few we're highlighting.
Friday Beers is another one.
Are we saying Peyton Seaver and Russ Smith are going to show up fat? Is that what we're saying?
No, we're saying Russ Smith's going to 440,
but
they're just not going to get together. No, Russ is showing up regardless. No,
I'm kidding.
Russ is the man. Russ, as a Memphis fan, it's funny because seeing Peyton Seaver and Russ in this event is going to make me cry because they spent 4 years torturing Memphis. I mean, torturing
Memphis is back, though, right?
Yeah,
Memphis is back.
I mean, they got the squad. They got Chris Crawford.
Look at the shirt. Look at the shirt.
Yeah. There you go.
It says Adonis Creed, but I love Adonis Thomas.
No, he's a great player. He had some good quotes.
99 problems. You know, I call him 99 problems. You were number 99. That dude is a problem.
He is an interesting power guard. Okay, let's get to the next question. Buy, sell. Yet again, an alumni team will win TBT. I mean, the thing about TBT is the alumni teams, after the OE dynasty, it's been a bunch of straight alumni teams. So let's go to Matt here. Let's start with Matt. Matt, yet again, an alumni team will win TBT.
Not only will an alumni team win TBT, there will be a repeat alumni team winning TBT. I'm gonna go blue collar you back to back, baby.
Whoa!
Just because I think those guys, if it's provided it's the same roster, which from what we've been given, it basically is. There are just so many options available on that route with Massenberg and Wes Clark and Jeremy Harris. It's and then you can go even further with Perkins, who's a matchup nightmare. I just love the way that those guys play together. They're playing for something, and they have been, for the last couple of years, the last year, but because of what happened in Buffalo, they were playing for something bigger. I think there's still enough emotion to carry them toward a second straight. So yeah, I'll go with alumni, simply because we haven't had a group since OE that's been as tight knit as some of these alumni teams. And I think Blue Collar U is a perfect example of a bunch of guys who have only been out of school for a few years, who had been to the big dance together, and now they're playing in the professional version of the big dance in the summertime, if you will.
Okay. Scar, I'm going to come to you in a minute, but I want to give Tom a chance. This is one thing he's going to know about this one. Tom, buy and sell yet again, an alumni team will win TBT. But do you want to tell him about Nick Perkins being in Summer League right now and the fact that it might hurt his ability to show?
Stop that.
For Blue Collar U.
Why you got to trample on my content, huh?
I do think that we have a good chance to repeat, but I'm going to go along with buying. I am a big fan of West Virginia. I think this might be the year that they piece it together. Kevin Jones has had another great season in Japan. I think he takes more of the leadership role because John Flowers is a year removed from basketball, but Jamel Morris playing in EuroLeague. I think that they'll play some close games, but I think they have the team that can, put up the best fight for an alumni team.
Well, that makes one of us, if you're asking me. That's okay. Scar, buy or sell, yet again, the alumni team will win TBT.
Listen, I love Tom Ballato like no other. I'm telling you, that's my guy.
He's the man.
But Tom, that team has some formidable teams in front of them in West Virginia. I think it's going to be hard for them to pack their bags and drive to Pennsylvania for the Final Four.
Most loaded region.
It's a very loaded region.
They're not getting a second round, Tom.
And I'm not just saying that because we have it. It really is.
But
live on ESPN, Tim and Scar.
I mean, I can't believe we get to do it again, honestly. That is a great region. And we're going to have fun. And we get to do the quarterfinal game as well there. So a little bonus for Matt Martucci and Tim Scarborough. Yeah.
3 straight years you and I have paid taxes in West Virginia.
In West Virginia, that's true. Yeah, summer in
What
West
is the
Virginia
tax
now.
rate in West Virginia? Is it like -3%? What is the tax rate there?
I don't know. I paid like $75 or something this past year, and
Right.
last year it was a little more because they didn't get it the first time, and I sent it certified mail. They didn't get it. I called. I got in an argument with the woman on the phone. It was great.
Yeah, really, really, really good stuff. So Tim, you're buying or selling this again?
So, when thinking about the question, you say alumni or not alumni, you start thinking about, well, most of the better teams are alumni teams right now. So who are the non-alumni that could possibly do it? Well, you got the money team, Jordan Crawford, Trevor Booker, although Trevor's getting a little older too, Peyton Aldridge, the shooter from Davidson. I don't think they have enough. Then you got to look at Challenge ALS TNT, who are two of the better teams in TBT who have now come together. Sean Marshall's team has gotten to the finals, Challenge ALS, a few years ago. He wanted to retool. They got with Terry Hughes and the TNT team, who everybody thought was going to win that thing last year, and they just didn't play with enough energy in that quarterfinal game in Dayton. And Andrew, you and I were sitting at the table, and you were going, "Oh, they're going to hit a switch." And I said, "I think it's too late. I don't think they have a switch to hit." They didn't match the intensity and the energy of that Autism's Army team and ended up losing in a quarterfinal game. So I expect that team, combined with the coaching of Darren Collison and Iron Rainey, they're going to get together and kind of co-coach the team. I think that team in West Virginia, sorry, Tom, has a chance to get out of West Virginia into Philadelphia. And once they get to Philly, anything's possible. But I'm also agreeing with Matt Martucci, that Buffalo team, if Nick Perkins plays.
If he plays.
I don't see anybody beat him, honestly.
Perkins is a beast. It's basically talking about the best centers in TBT. It's basically talking about Perkins and Clanton. That's who you're talking about. That's your gold standard at the
best footwork in TBT goes to Keith Clanton, hands down, and has probably since the inception of this event.
I mean, he's so talented. And he's also he's got footwork, and he's also the size of a small mountain, so that also helps his ability to score the post. I mean,
and they've added some bigs too. It's not just Keith.
It's true.
And you get Marvell Harris, who looks like a dump truck, and then all of a sudden runs like a 4.40.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, I really like what Boeheim's Army done. I think as a Marquette alumni team, they're really good this year. So I think they're going to be really, really, really solid. So I really think Boeheim's Army is kind of my pick winner. So so we're all going alumni, right?
You do whatever you need to do to win this thing. They don't all have to be serious.
And Boeheim's Army is evidence of that.
Absolutely. I mean,
that's right. Whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
What about Heartfire, though? I mean, they're a 2 seed. They're not an alumni team. No one's talking about them. Craig Sword is back. Putney, Justin Toyle. By the way, another team that Heartfire and Team 23 got together a year ago, put together a nice squad. Coach Alfonso Ellis is back. If Fonzo's playing, I would absolutely pick them.
I mean, if you got an NBA Jam original out there, you got to go. It sucks too because unfortunately, LaFonso Ellis has a little more time right now, which is a big bummer. I mean, that's
unfortunate to see that, but
that's really
he'll be back. He'll be back on the air.
He'll definitely be back. He's not going to have a problem. No. Okay, we're through the first half. Let me see how we're doing here. The scores are not there. We're not doing scores anymore. Who cares? Screw it. But you guys are all doing well. It's great. Let's just go to the second round. We'll do the scores in a minute. So real quick. We'll start with Tom here. We'll give Tom the hit here. So in the second round of this, which first round matchup, Tom, are you most looking forward to?
Louisville versus War Ready. Like we mentioned earlier, Louisville doesn't have experience, but I'm excited to see that roster play together. Russ Smith led the Italian second division in scoring. I feel like he'll be the main go-to scorer. He'll get his. They also have Chris Dowd, who wasn't an alumni of that roster, but playing at a high level in Italy last year. I'm excited to see that team. Kyle Couric, 3-point marksman for that team. And then War Ready. They got it together. They got their wins last year. That team has experience. Those guys have had a group that played together. I see a very close game.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually not a bad pick. Tim, what are you thinking? Which first-round matchup are you most looking forward to?
I really like that bleed green team down in Texas. They are really good. They're going to play
nice.
the Rise and Grind team. I don't know. That North Texas alumni team got very far in this tournament, lost a 2-point game in the regional final. I really like that team in particular. I don't know enough about Rise and Grind, but I just really want to see that North Texas team come out and play again. So whoever they will be playing, I'd say, yeah, that's the first round game I'm most looking forward to.
I will say this: I don't think you have to worry about the first round game. I've seen them winning one, so you can watch. You can look forward to their second round game more than likely. Is what I'm thinking about the game personally. But we'll see. Matt, first round matchup you're most looking forward to?
We're going to Wichita, fellas. The 4 and 5 matchup: Beale Street Boys against the Broad Street Birds. I had to look down.
You know to pander to the host.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's not even because you're a Memphis guy. It's simply because I've seen those guys in this tournament before. Scar and I have had them once or twice. I know what they're capable of when they're right and when they put their talent together. We talked about Adonis Thomas before. Will Coleman. I love seeing Will Coleman obviously back in this thing and back with a Memphis alumni team. Not that he hasn't played for another team in this before, but just back where I feel like he belongs. Just such a great competitor. Always keeps himself in great shape and will be ready for this. And if they do get out of that, you look at who they end up getting. I think Aftershocks, not that any of us pay attention to these things, but I think Brent Musburger's guys out in the desert gave Aftershocks the best odds, I think, to win this tournament. So whoever ends up coming out of that game is getting Aftershocks most likely in the second round. And I think that Memphis team is talented enough to give that Aftershocks team all they can handle.
Provided they don't let people tackle people again in Wichita, like that one steal where they just took the guy's leg like they were Cobra Kai, sweep the leg, steal the ball. It was pretty wild, actually. Yeah,
I'm just looking forward to our guy Eric Collins going Fred Cap.
Fred Cap. That's
do you guys get the game? Are you guys getting the Beale Street?
No, we don't. E. Collins has that one.
No. Oh. Dude, I thought we had that.
We don't get Aftershock. We're only there for 6 games.
But I'm saying we have the Beale Street game. We have the opening round game.
Oh yeah, we do.
The Broad Street
the Beale Street game.
Yeah.
We absolutely do. Yeah. And in fact, I'm picking the Broad Street Birds to beat that Memphis team. Philly over Memphis all day, Hainer.
And that's the.
I wasn't fast enough We're just going to take points away just on general principles.
That's the other half of that of why I like that matchup, though. A lot of those Temple guys, those Temple alumni, I haven't seen play for a long time, so that'll be cool. Having called a lot of their games up this way, and then Jason Thompson, obviously who's been a career NBA pro, pride of South Jersey, Lenape High School. I'm looking forward to seeing him play as well. So
the Temple team is going to be really good. That will be a really good game. The game I'm kind of most looking forward to, actually, oddly enough, is we're going to go with Ott. We're going to go with that first round between the Zoo Crew and Heard That, because I think Heard That absolutely loaded up, and I think Pitt's going to be pretty solid having posted home. And the only reason I think Best Virginia has a chance in round 2 against the winner of that game is because those teams are going to beat the living hell out of each other. So the only way I think Heard That doesn't win 2 in that is if Heard That gets their asses just beat down by the physicality. So that first round matchup is going to be a lot about just trying to survive it. I think there's a lot of those 4 or 5. That
team is considerably better because number one, Ott is coaching now instead of playing. But number 2, really, they added Tavion Kinsey. If people don't know who that is, he's one of the highest flying dunkers. Played, I think, 8 or 9 years at Marshall. Of course, he is the all-time leading scorer at Marshall. John Elmore was the all-time leading scorer. Tavion Kinsey is now the holder of the record. He really did play 5 straight years, and he really was a starter for 5 years.
Stayed for his masters.
That's the only team. Yeah, exactly. He's a doctor. and then you add a little-known guard, Jarrett West, who played at Louisville his senior year, his 5th year of school. So West, a great ball handler. West is a disruptive force to a team bringing the ball at them, because that's one of the problems they've had, is getting back in transition and getting dunks at the other end, because all they want to do is take the ball to the net and go down and score. Now you got a couple of dogs on defense. I like that team. I like that team this year.
Definitely. I mean, I think they're going to be a really
JP
nice
Tokato too. What a great addition that is.
Oh, yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. They're loaded. Hey, Tom, real quick, question to you real fast before we get to the next thing. John Elmore obviously had a great year in the G League. If the Heat had called him up for the finals, would they be champions right now?
He wouldn't have played. I mean,
you don't understand the concept of the show at all. God,
I know. I love it. I actually got to see him play when they came to Long Island to play the Long Island Nets. They had 5. He played almost the whole game. They had 5 guys dressed and 3 guys on the bench that were hurt. They had 2 guys that got called up, the two-way guys, so they were shorthanded that night. It would have been nice to see him get called up, but they even had a G League team that was pretty loaded too, the Heat.
Yeah. Matt, let's try that again. If John Elmer had been called up to the Heat, would they win the title?
Yes.
There we go. Thank you. We don't run a serious show here, Tom. We run a clown show. Come on, we have some fun with this. Okay, let's get to Scarborough.
Have a real analysis, Tom. Come on, man.
No. You gotta understand a leading question, Tom. Like, actually, I am curious if they make the Dame move, if they're going to need to get some more depth off that Skyhawks team, actually, because they're going to have to package some of those players to get Dame. I'm actually really trying to get my Memphis Grizzlies to kind of find a way to get Caleb Martin into that trade somehow and facilitate them. That's just me. I just already miss Dylan Brooks personally. Okay, let's go to Tim.
I don't.
Why not?
Because he ruined my life in 2016. in Spokane.
Fair enough.
Oh, yeah.
St. Joe's was a media timeout away, baby.
I'm actually gonna buy
playing Duke in Anaheim. Dylan Brooks and Tyler Dorsey basically just went right.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy a Dylan Brooks Memphis jersey now throwing clearance, because I think that basically if you wear that in public, it's just a sign for people to leave you alone. Like, oh my God, this guy's a Dylan Brooks fan. Let's stay away from him. Okay,
that guy probably also watches a lot of WWE. I'm willing.
I think he is. He's gonna be a WWE wrestler when his playing days are over. I mean, I didn't want to match that deal for Houston as a Memphis fan, but I'm glad he's getting paid. I am totally gonna miss him. Okay, Tim, let's go to Tim. This is a fun one. Which each region is the most difficult? There's a few really difficult regions. They're all strong enough, but like, which is the one or two? Which is the one that's the most difficult in your mind?
So I think top to bottom, I think West Virginia is just really good teams there. The most difficult to beat the teams at the top is probably the Syracuse region. I mean, the Boeheim's Army playing at home and that Buffalo team being in that region. Good luck to the rest of those teams, honestly. That is a top-heavy region. But again, the top to bottom, the West Virginia region, man, I just think there are no bad teams there, really. And I mean, even Ram Nation, who's traditionally been a top seed, 1 or 2, is now a 7 in West Virginia. I know it's not the same group of guys, but Matt Shelton has put together a really nice squad once again. Again, Tooch mentioned it earlier, potential upset in the first round, Sideline Cancer and Ram Nation. But, you got that Challenge ALS Florida team. Again, who knows how that's going to gel, but man, I mean, if it comes out on the floor like it looks on paper, it's a really, really good team. Of course, Sideline Cancer. I mean, there's some really good team. And the Best Virginia, Tom Ballato's favorite, they're hosting that thing, and they're closer to Morgantown, so expect even more fans to be there this summer. So, that top to bottom, that West Virginia region is good. But, again, the top-heavy Syracuse, that's going to be really tough for any of those lower seeds to get out of there.
Top heavy in Syracuse, but the nerd team pulled it off last year, so maybe they can repeat that little bit of magic. Tom, most difficult region. Yep. Yeah, they're a little scary. Most difficult region in TBT, Tom.
I'm going to go with the West Virginia regional. They have West Virginia, heard that. I'm looking forward to that second round matchup. Challenge ALS Florida, Sideline Cancer. I'm also a fan because of the old Big East. I do like Dogtown. I don't know if they'll win, but I do like to see all those alumni playing together again. Not sure how they mesh, but Rodney Pryor was great. LJ Peak has been playing in Japan for the past few years. Very great. Henry Sims had his cup of tea in the NBA. Greg Whittington's playing elite level basketball overseas. They have some guys that have some experience too. Chris Wright played, I think, Autism Army and a couple other teams. That's a team that I don't see beating Challenge ALS Florida, but another good team in that regional.
Yeah, you met Chris Wright. I mean, you had a great run of Autism Army, a big part of that last year. So going to another team slightly dilutes the Army, but also gives you another solid alumni team. I'm surprised that Georgetown is long to get a team in. Matt, which region's the most difficult?
I'm going to make this unanimous, and it's not just because we're going there. I just think it's not even like it's a combination, obviously, of talent, but also experience in that West Virginia regional. You look, the West Virginia alumni, the Marshall alumni, the meshing of Challenge ALS and Florida TNT is
biggest early story.
Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely crazy to me. And if it's almost going to be, I almost feel like it's going to be disappointing if they're not in Philadelphia, because we're talking odds again. I think they have like the second or third best odds potentially to win this thing. And you look up and down that roster and you can see why. That hurt that team. We touched on this a little bit. I didn't realize some of the guys that they had actually added. Loaded. That they have a JP Tokoto, that they added a Rob Gray. Now, this is, we're however many days after the 4th of July that we're recording this. So we've got a while for these guys not to potentially show up, but that's quite a roster, especially if Ja'Cory Williams is going to play again, if James Kelly is going to play again. So you keep going down. We talked about Challenge ALS in Florida. Sideline cancer obviously is sideline cancer. The Ram Nation team, Javonte Reddick was a high-level All-Atlantic 10 player. Jaquan Lewis was a high-level All-Atlantic 10 player. You can go up and down that roster and find guys that Matt Shelton-Knight has put together. David Shriver, who just graduated from there, 3-point specialist. Dariante Jenkins, who's just a hell of an athlete, stands at the top of that press with his length, just creates all kinds of problems for opposing ball handlers. And then they even have a guy in Manny Camper, who was kind of a Swiss Army knife at Siena, a Mr. Do Everything. And you have a former Atlantic 10 All-Rookie in Marcus Santos Silva. So you have a ton of guys. Oh, and I'd be remiss if I left out Brandon Adams, who was a top 5 scorer in the Atlantic 10 this past year and torched St. Joe's what felt like 6 times, even though I think they only played 2 or 3.
Torch St. Joe's though. Let's be honest. but no, I had to take a shot at my guy Matt once in a while.
There's a door to this booth. I just walked out. I just shoved myself out and re-entered. This is going to be the year. You mark my words. It's going to be a good year.
I love that.
It's going to be a good year
I pull for the Hawks.
City Avenue.
Thank you.
Year.
I love to hear
your lips, God's ears, and the A10 needs them to be good. The A10's better when St. Joe's is good.
A10 wants to be a multi-bid league again. Yeah,
so I actually, real quick, I'm kind of surprised no one mentioned Louisville. I had 2 answers in mind for this, and West Virginia was one of the 2. So I definitely agree that that's one of 2. And I would have picked them.
We haven't talked about Louisville at all, really. Just a little bit.
If you trust Louisville, which I kind of don't, let's just say even if you don't trust them, you respect them, because there's a lot of talent on that team. You push Warray down to 7, everything in between. You got the underdogs at 6, Everline at 3. You got 2 frisky 4 or 5s. There's a couple of those 4 or 5 new alumni teams, and Gutter Cats come back loaded if those guys are ready to play. So really, and actually the Knopf are probably the best 8 seed in the whole thing. So
I'm not feeling that, fellas.
Really? Okay.
I mean, Gutter Cats, again, Kyle Hines is 74 years old. I mean, I don't just. Well,
he also hasn't played in this thing since what? 2020 the last year he played.
2019, yeah, 2020, yeah.
No, 2020 because he played. Didn't he?
Yeah, in the bubble.
He played in the bubble. Yeah.
And then Everline Drive.
I love Kyle. Kyle lives like 15 minutes from me here in South Jersey.
I love him.
The pride of Sicklerville. But like I would love to actually get him back in this thing. He's gonna play this year, right?
Yeah, I can't buy that. I just can't buy that.
The word is he's playing. That's fair. I'm surprised no one mentioned it, but yeah, I can see that.
If I was going to mention another
Jackson underdogs in that region.
Yeah,
Jackson.
Exactly. That's the Xavier region.
They loaded up.
Tooch usually says good things. This was not one of those times.
If you know, you know. Okay. Anyway, on that note, let's keep the hating going on. Actually, real quick.
Stop
okay,
it.
let's keep the hating. This is actually one I'm gonna go ahead and I have an opinion on this one. Tom, which seed or snub in TBT was most perplexing? And anybody who watches the show knows exactly where I'm going. But Tom, where are you going? What team needed either a higher seed or just needed to be in?
That's tough. I think War Ready could have been higher. War Ready have the experience. It just feels like a team that, you watch the NCAAs every year, a team that, didn't win the conference, but just gets in. They're very low seed for a team that's been in for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a bad answer. That's definitely a place I would have gone with this, actually.
My second one,
go ahead.
Eberline. Eberline's been in too. They have some new guys again this year. They've been bringing back Archie Goodwin and AJ Slaughter for a while now. They win games. I think 3 is low for them. I know that they've been giving new alumni teams with the big names number 1 seeds, and I understand why, but Eberline's been in for a long time. They have a great GM. They have a great coach. And they bring guys. They're guys that they say are coming, usually are there. So that's my second one. I don't think they're a 3 seed.
So you won't find many people who are bigger Eberline fans than the people behind this podcast. We love Matt and Jake. They do a wonderful job, but they did lose in the first round last year to Bleed Green, and they are in a pretty tough region. So I actually don't mind their seed, but I will buy the War Ready part of that, definitely. Tim, which seed and or snub was most perplexing?
I wouldn't say perplexing. It was disappointing for me from a personal standpoint is Brian Tracy's group didn't get in for the 4th straight year. That Men of Valor, I believe that's what they were calling themselves this year. He was trying to put together a team that had all veterans. And Aaron Maxey, who was almost my age now, but could still play ball. They came down to Atlanta to play in the Vic Beasley tournament and unfortunately had a 23-point lead squandered, and they blew their game in the first day of that tournament. So 23 points, yeah. And they couldn't play themselves into it. And, it would have been nice to throw those guys a bone. But to be honest, man, it's really hard to get into TBT. You got a lot of good teams coming back. And you think about this, the top 32 teams, the teams that win games automatically come back. And I believe 28 of those 32 accepted that invitation. So you're really talking about a much smaller pool to try to get in once you're on the outside looking in. So, Brian Tracy, shout out to him for trying to get his team in once again. It's just unfortunate that they didn't make it because they hustle and they try to put together all the tools necessary to get in. But again, credit to TBT because it shows how hard it is and how good this tournament is and how hard it is to get into.
Fair answer. Matt, which seed and or snub is most perplexing?
I mean, just because of their history, I think in this tournament, primetime players, Chris Thomas does a good job putting together that roster. And they've been able to put together some wins in this thing in the past. So there's your snub. Seed wise, I mentioned this before. I get that Mass Street obviously is the Kansas alumni, but other than being the Kansas alumni, what warrants them? And the fact that the region is in Wichita, it's a super regional. Why do they deserve a 1 seed? Based on what? Because they're Kansas? That's it?
That's a fair answer. And I will say, I'm really glad you mentioned primetime because that was my pick. And I think it's interesting and you won't find many people that love TBT more than the 4 of us because obviously we're really in this event. You guys, we all cover it to some level. And it's something we all really enjoy. So we know the history. And primetime players showed up for the bubble. They've played on late notice. They've been there whenever it's asked. And I understand that the event has gotten bigger and that one day it will be too big for the primetime players. I think it's a fair thing. One day this event will be too big for them. But today I don't think was that day. I think that in year 10.
It's not there yet.
I think it's real close. I mean, I would have actually, and again, it's funny because we cover this event, and we all love the founders, John and Matt, or John and Dan do a wonderful job on this event. So let's be very clear, TBT is the best. But rewarding some loyalty in your 10th anniversary when you're trying to build a narrative of making this event a real thing, someone that you really built on the back of these guys, I'd like to see them in it. That really, I found shocking, especially some of the teams that got in. I won't want to be a hater, but there's teams I can name that I would drop at their expense just to make them get in. The seed thing, having said that, this thing was seeded really well. In fact, as we started talking to teams after the announcements, like we found out that like a lot of teams, I thought they made mistakes on matchups. Like I was complaining about no Memphis, Louisville, no Maryland, Georgetown. How can you not manufacture these matchups? No Syracuse, Georgetown. How can you not manufacture these historic matchups? And then by and large, the team said, no, we requested that move. So it wasn't TBT doing that. The only seed I found kind of really surprising was Big Five getting an 8 in Syracuse after getting a win in bid. That was a flooring thing to me. And I get why. The seeds had to work out to get your matchups. You had to have that Rhode Island, which is not an island, and UMass alumni team play. You had to have that A-10 matchup, and there's no other
It's
place
not a
to
road
put
either.
them. It's just words have meaning. Words have meaning. The fact it's not Rhode Island just makes me mad, and I'm not going to mention it every time this damn state. If I'm ever president, I will run on abolishing Rhode Island as a state. That's like literally all I'm going to do, or at least making them change their name.
If I'm ever president, you'll be able to find a decent hotel in Newport for under like $250.
Yeah,
I love Newport. I love Newport. My wallet doesn't love Newport though.
You know, speaking of Wheeling, finding a decent hotel in Wheeling isn't that hard. You can find it for like $75 actually, because it's not a destination.
Yeah, it's a little different.
Not a destination. Yeah, but having said that, we have a few gripes. The primetime players really was to me, but yeah, it was seeded pretty well.
Yeah,
Even these minor quips, it was seeded pretty well, actually, I thought.
Okay,
I know. Shout out to my
that Big Five team is gonna give Blue Collar U a game.
They're gonna give them work, but they're not gonna win.
They ain't gonna beat them though.
No, they won't beat them. But that has potential to be a hell of a game.
What's really weird about
there are a lot of guys
though,
that have done a lot of good stuff in their college careers on that Big Five team.
So let's get.
I got to give a shout out to my
Liberty
Flames team not making it for the second straight year. That was a little bit disappointing too. And I felt like they were close. It would have been nice to meet up with them in West Virginia, but it didn't happen for the second straight year. But maybe next year.
Well, you mentioned the Men of Honor, which really should have kept the Fort Hood branding. They really should have kept that. I mean, because that combination, the Fort Hood brand has more than the Men of Honor. That would have helped. They kept Seth Brooks.
Yeah.
We mentioned Primetime at length. Liberty was a team. The Crew. So and all those teams are deserving. And by the way, very few of the teams of the 64 in, I would have put 62 in. So really, I have like 68 teams I would have put in. So there's always going to be tough cuts. So it's not a question of like, are there bad teams in? That's not the point. But like, there's a few things that, again, like it's not my tournament. So the reality is, I think they did a 99% good job. We're bitching at the edges, so to speak, to be honest with you. Okay, let's put our money where our mouth is. And I'm not paying you, so it's no money. But so Tom, I'm putting you on the spot. This is the last question for our closing thoughts. What's your championship pick for TBT? Who is walking out that beautiful trophy in Philly?
It's going to be an alumni team. I'm going, like I said, I think West Virginia. But if I had to make a gut pick, I would say Boeheim's Army. Boeheim's Army.
Okay.
They do have some Marquette alum that are playing with them, White Bikes and Jameel Wilson. I also like their alumni, and they also got Matt Morgan, who played very well in France, who can score the ball. They're a loaded squad, and they're going to be very tough to beat. Nothing against Matt's repeat pick. I don't know if he's going to go with it again, but I would love to see those two. I would love to see those two in the finals together.
Matt, well, since he teed you up, let's go. Who's your pick? Who's winning this thing?
Yeah, I mean that's where I'm going. Whether Nick Perkins shows up or not,
He'll show up.
I love this Buffalo alumni team. I don't think there's a roster with better chemistry because these guys have played together for so long and in so many NCAA tournaments together. So I think if they can get out of their own region, which is going to be a tall order, especially if they do run into that Boeheim's Army team that's going to be thirsty for revenge. And with those additions, as Tom just said, Bikes and Wilson, Tyus Battle is coming back for them. My only question for them is, and DeAndre Kane. My only question for them is there are a ton of guys that like to shoot the ball in that team. Are there enough shots to go around? I think that's my only question. I think there. But if they could figure that out, I see no reason why they couldn't come out of that region either. But I'm sticking with Blue Collar U simply because I think that's the most mentally tough team in this field. That's what I'll say.
Okay, we got two guys out of the Syracuse region. Tim, you're down on points to make your closing argument. Your championship pick.
All right,
why?
here you go. My championship game is going to be Buffalo on one side, Dayton on the other. And Scoochie Smith playing with that group last year was the most fun basketball I've seen in TBT in a while. Playing in Dayton, that crowd was tremendous. Scoochie made those guys so much better. They ran into a Buffalo squad in that, I believe, the semifinal game. And, to their credit, they were right there. So I think those two teams will meet in the championship this year in Philadelphia. And it's going to be another barn burner, but I feel like people just don't outplay that Buffalo team. They are very talented, but they also play harder than everybody else. So that combination is deadly. So I feel like those guys, until somebody shows me they can outplay those guys in terms of the energy level, I can't see anybody beating them. I really can't.
People don't talk enough about how Wes Clark is probably the toughest small guard in TBT. He's not the most talented, but he is talented, and he's the toughest small guard in this event. Like he plays.
And there's a lot of tough small guards in TBT.
Yeah, there are, but he plays a foot a foot taller than he is. He's insane.
Eric Washington. You can go on. There's a lot. Jerome Randall.
Wes comes to
really good small guards. Casper Ware. But yeah, he's up there with those guys for sure. Tyrese Rice. It's a really good. Marcus Keene. It's been some good small ones. But
Marcus
Keene
is the best player who's hobbit sized to ever play in basketball. Like he's an amazing player. If he were 6'1", he'd be an NBA All-Pro, but he's not. That's the thing. If he was just a little taller.
One of the cooler stories in TBT history is him getting in at like 2 a.m. or whatever.
We were there.
Yeah, we were there in West Virginia.
Yeah.
And them picking him up in Kentucky and driving him over the Kentucky-West Virginia border, which isn't crazy far, but they had to basically do a midnight run to go get him and then get him ready to play for the next day. And comes out and is of course his typical Marcus Keene self.
Yeah, he's a great shot maker and a great shit talker. I remember some of the shots he made and some of the things he said, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Yeah, I remember asking Coach Parker at the parking lot at the Marriott. I saw him. I'm like, hey, is Marcus showing up? He just shrugs, goes, I hope so. And this was like 11 p.m. the night before. Like, oh my God, your point guard's not here yet, and you play in like 14 hours. This is going to be a little nerve-wracking. That's what makes TBT great. It's like, it's the question of like, oh, cool, I have a good point guard. I wonder where he is. We're all going to go with the picking a team out of that region. I think this is a really great TBT at the top. I think there are probably about 11, 12 teams that can win this legitimately, and maybe another 6 that have dark horse chances. My pick is Boeheim's Army. I'm going to go with Tom on this, and I think that Buffalo Syracuse regional matchup is going to be the best regional final we're going to see. I think it's going to be incredible. If you want a dark horse pick, though, I'm picking Boeheim's, but dark horse pick for me is probably Herd That. They loaded up. They've won before. I can see them win the whole thing. I'm not saying they will. I'm picking Boeheim's, but if I had to pick a dark horse, an outside the top 3 seed, I'm picking Herd.
They won't survive Wheeling.
It's a good one, though. It's a good one, though, because it actually seems like they've given a lot more thought into their roster composition in terms of how they put their team
I agree
together.
They're definitely better.
They're definitely better. And maybe this is potentially the year that they go even further. And maybe
what's great about this event? What's great about this event too is the smaller teams, like the teams from smaller conferences, can actually make some bones in it. I'm sorry, someone speaking. What was it, Tom? Or Scarborough? Okay. Okay, so let me see. We're all pretty close on score. Let's go ahead and figure out who wins with a closing thought. Everybody gets one. Let's start with Tom. Tom, briefly, give us a closing thought on TBT in general. You'd say you get the floor for a minute, whatever you want to talk about. What's your closing thought on TBT, the status of it in 2023?
TBT is always fun to watch, especially from my side as following guys overseas. Want to give a shout out to DJ Kennedy, who is recovering from a torn ACL. I'm a St. John's fan. He won't be able to play this year. Unfortunately, he suffered his injury in early spring. TBT legend, I was hoping to see him play. Last year he hopped on. I know he's hopped on a different team since Overseas Elite is gone, but I would have liked him to see him play. And, I would have liked to see what team he would have been on. But another closing thought is just enjoy it, because TBT happens fast, and it's just so much fun. And you enjoy it, and then we're talking about it again in the middle of August and about how fun it was, and looking forward again to the following year. So just enjoy it game by game, because it does happen fast.
Definitely. Tim, what do you got? What closing thought, Tim?
Closing thoughts. Well, every summer, as I said, I like to spend my summers in West Virginia the last few years. But really, I think it's been an honor to work with Matt Martucci every summer. One of my good friends off the court. We get to work a lot of games. So I have a whole list of games. I work about 50 games a year around the country for different networks. And about 25 of those games has Matt Martucci's name on it. So he's my guy. So when we go to Wichita this year, which is a real honor, because I thought Fran Fraschilla had Wichita locked up. I would never get to do a TBT game in Wichita, but thanks that it's a super region, they let the lowlifes like me and Matt go there too. So we get to do that. Then we get to go to West Virginia again. And then I get to go to Philadelphia, where I was born and raised, and watch at Drexel the semifinals of the finals, and hang out with my guy, Matt Martucci, who I certainly will be there because he lives in South Jersey. So this is going to be the greatest TBT. I'm looking forward to it. Again, we talked about it from a basketball standpoint. I feel like the seedings are great. The matchups are terrific. And, whoever wins this, they're going to have to beat a lot of good teams and play some great basketball.
All right, Matt, you're at 0.02 to get it back on. Let's go. What do you got? Your closing thought on TBT?
TBT year 10, looking at what I'm going to call the strongest field, I think that this thing maybe potentially has ever had. And the idea of being able to go to Wichita, for me, the place where Wyatt Earp once patrolled the streets, the setting for the comic strip Dennis the Menace, and an absolutely great city that loves its basketball. I mean, as evidence from past years where TBT has been there, it's the best attended region for good reason, because those people, they would come watch, you and I, Hainer, play horse, just like the folks in Dayton.
Fans.
I think
I played horse with Tim. No one's watching me play horse.
I think the selection, the selection, and how they've come up with the process over the years, how they've whittled it down in terms of how they select these regions. They've done a really, really good job with it. And I think it's set up for this to be the best tournament yet. So I can't wait. Wichita, Kansas. And like I said, the nail capital of the world at one time, Wheeling, West Virginia, Capitol Theater. We're coming for you. Can't wait.
Can't wait. And hey, let's see where we're at. 20.63. We do decimals here. Tom, 20.98. Tim almost got it. Our winner this time, Matt Martucci, wins. I did not have to use the mute button for the first time since we've done this show, which is rare. Usually Matt gets muted, but everybody was on point. There was nothing to mute. You guys were perfect.
Matt not getting muted cost me a game. If you muted him one time, I would have won.
I know. Right? Well, really, just you would have won if you hadn't picked Broad Street. Let's just be honest here.
You remember the year we had to do like 12 takes? We had to do like 12 takes on one of the questions because I couldn't remember who the hell was playing in the one matchup.
There's a lot of teams with a lot going on. TBT is always wonderful, and one of the best things, besides it's great basketball, is getting to know you guys. It's been a real pleasure, and year 10 should be the best year yet. Tom Ballato, the next prospect. Matt Martucci, St. Joe's and ESPN. Tim Scarborough, ESPN Stadium is General Troublemaker. Gentlemen, thanks for coming along. This has been Zoom the TBT, and we are signing off.
Hope you enjoyed listening to Zoom the TBT with Charge and Hainer. Subscribe to YouTube, follow on Twitter, and give us your money.